That is a lot of applause just for instructions on how to get to the bathroom. Good evening and welcome to Wesleyan Memorial Chapel. I will tell you where the bathrooms are in case they are needed. If you go to the back of the building, there are stairs going downstairs. They will take you to the restrooms, which are in the sort of the basement floor. The exits are there and also at either wing to my left and right. And we would ask also that you please hold your applause. Yes, I get to do the full flight attendant, thanks Alex, the full flight attendant thing. So please hold your applause to the very end of the program, which will be the song We Are. So that's the final performance. So please hold your applause to that point. Tonight, we are telling ancient stories about child gods. And I should say that this is the kind of concert that the Mnemosyne Arts Collective has been trying to put together for a while. The Mnemosyne Arts Collective is named for the Greek goddess of memory, Mnemosyne. Mnemosyne was the mother of the 9 muses who brought poetry, myth, music, and dance into the world. She is the keeper of stories and dreams and tells us who we are. So the Mnemosyne Arts Collective is, fittingly, a multimedia arts collaboration between the Department of Classical Studies at Wesleyan, Wesleyan student and faculty artists, community artists from Middletown, Hartford, and the broader Connecticut area. And it's a creation of myself and our lovely conductor, Dr. Jonathan Runestad. And our concerts aim to bring together choral and instrumental music with storytelling, dance, poetry, to tell ancient stories in new ways and to reframe familiar music for new audiences. So tonight, as promised, we're telling ancient stories about child gods. These are drawn from Greek mythology, early Christian and Hindu sources, and some of these may be familiar to you, and some of these may not. Such stories begin from this fundamental narrative premise of what happens when you put the power of a god into the body and mind of a child. And the short answer is hijinks, right? Hijinks ensue, but the longer answer is much more complicated and terrifying and beautiful and joyful. And so this evening, we're presenting expressions of gods as children from these diverse traditions in storytelling, in music, and in dance. And we're exploring in the hearing, and perhaps also in the telling, what they invite us to understand about the divine, about the world, and about ourselves. Also, hijinks. A Tale of Hermes. Does anyone here have older siblings? Yeah, right? Do you remember that feeling watching them go out and do all of these grown-up things and thinking how unfair it was that they could go and you couldn't? Because you were almost as big and just as smart, or even maybe smarter. I like to think of the Greek god Hermes as the god of little brothers, or perhaps even the god of middle children. You might know Hermes already as the god of messengers, perpetually serving as the go-between for Zeus and, well, basically everyone else. And his winged sandals make him quick, and he's always dressed for travel, so he can hit the road, or the air, actually, on a moment's notice. Hermes is also the god of tricksters, thieves, and con men. But, and this is really important, not the mean kind. Hermes never celebrates violence or cruelty. He is instead the patron saint of all those who live by their wits. And he loves a good practical joke. This was true right out of the cradle from the moment he was born. And one of his first targets was his big brother, Apollo, the noble, mighty, handsome sun god. Apollo and all the other grown-up gods were always out doing amazing things, racing the sun through the heavens and ruling all the underworld of dead souls, and making the sky thunder and the seas swell. The others also got to enjoy the delicious sacrifices, think barbecue, right, that the humans were making to them because they were all officially Olympians. Hermes wasn't. Even though his father was Zeus, his mother was the beautiful nymph Maia, and you can imagine how Hera, Zeus's wife, felt about that. So this is a story of how Hermes tricked his big brother and won his father's heart and a place among the 12 Olympian gods. Once upon a time, in a mountain cave near the wide, dark Mediterranean Sea, the nymph Maia gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. And from the moment of his birth, this boy was precocious even for a god. Maia had hardly wrapped him in swaddling clothes and put him into a basket when he began to imagine all the mischief that he might make. And as soon as his mother fell asleep, Hermes wriggled out of his swaddling clothes and tiptoed out of the cave. Gods grow really quickly. In the dark of night, he toddled over rocks and through high grass to the pasture where the glorious god of the sun, Apollo, his big brother, kept his prized herd of cattle. Apollo had been breeding these cows magically for years, and they were healthy and fat and had beautiful, mottled, shiny coats. They were his pride and joy. Tiny Hermes picked out 50 of the best, fattest, most beautiful cows. To hide their tracks, he wrapped their hooves in tree bark so that it would disguise their footprints as they walked. Then he tied brooms to their tails so that when he drove them out of the pasture, they would swish their tails and sweep away any of the footprints, any trace that they had passed through. To anyone discovering the empty pen, it would look like the cattle had vanished into thin air. Giggling to himself a little bit, Hermes drove the cattle back to his mountain cave and hid them in a grove of trees nearby, piling up brush so they couldn't be seen. But before going to bed, he first sacrificed 2 of them to himself. And then he slipped back into the cave and carefully wiggled himself back into his mother's arms and pretended to be sound asleep. But his mother, Maia, knew what he had been up to. She wasn't fooled for a second. "Shame on you," she said to him, "sneaking out in the middle of the night to steal your brother's cattle. Apollo is going to be so angry at you." "But mother," he replied, "I only did this for you, for us, really. The other gods sit up there with my father Zeus, and they get to enjoy all of the praise from the mortals and savor all of the delicious sacrifices that humans make for them. I'm just as smart and capable as all of them, even though I'm small. Why should we have to live here in this cave when they have all the glory? You just watch. Soon I'll be one of the 12 Olympian gods, and we won't have to stay here anymore." And with that, Hermes picked up a lyre, an instrument that he just invented on the spot from a tortoise shell, and played his mother a beautiful song that soothed her to sleep. Meanwhile, up on Olympus, Apollo was blistering mad. One of the oracles had ratted Hermes out and told Apollo that it was his baby brother, Hermes, who had stolen his herd. And Apollo stormed down from Olympus to the cave and yanked Hermes out of bed, still pretending to be asleep, right out of his mother's arms, and accused him of the theft. He demanded that the cows be returned at once. Hermes, trying hard not to giggle, whimpered, "How could I have stolen your cows? I'm only a newborn baby. I don't even know what a cow is. Besides, do you see any cows in this cave?" And this just made Apollo angrier because he knew he was being tricked. He just couldn't figure out how. "You're not just a thief," he said to Hermes, "you're also a liar." And he began to chase Hermes out of the cave. And Hermes ran straight up to Mount Olympus, where the other gods and his father Zeus were gathered, Apollo following behind. And the other gods, watching this happen, started to howl with laughter because what they were watching was the noble, perfect, radiant Apollo, red-faced with rage, huffing and puffing, chasing after a baby in a diaper. Apollo turned to Zeus, the father of the gods, and he demanded, "Tell this liar and thief to give me back my cows." And Hermes protested, "Tell my big brother to stop bullying me. I am a newborn baby and a complete innocent. There are no cows in my mother's cave." Zeus, almighty father of the gods, lord of storm and thunderbolts, hid his smile behind his beard. He knew Hermes was lying. "If they aren't in the cave, Hermes," he said patiently, "then show your brother where they actually are." He wanted them to be friends. Hermes obeyed his father and showed Apollo where he had hidden the cattle. And Apollo was almost appeased until he counted them and noticed that the two very fattest, very finest were missing. And his anger flared up again. But Hermes, seeing this, pulled out his lyre quickly and played a song. The music was so lilting and soft and lyrical that Apollo was immediately spellbound. For Apollo was not only the god of the sun, but also the god of music. He wanted that instrument. He had to have that lyre. So to make things right, Hermes offered him the lyre. And Apollo was so happy that he forgave everything, and even gave Hermes a special golden wand, a caduceus, that was a symbol of messengers that he carried everywhere forever after. Hermes became one of the 12 Olympian gods from that day forward. And he and his big brother Apollo, the best of friends.
Once upon a time, the great warrior god Shiva and his wife Parvati were watching monkeys play on the beautiful slopes of Kailash Mountain. It looked like so much fun that they decided they wanted to try. So they transformed themselves into monkeys and enjoyed swinging from the branches of trees and picking the juicy fruits in the forest. They stayed as monkeys for only a little while, but when they returned to their divine forms, Parvati received a great shock. She realized that she had become pregnant. A little while later, she gave birth to a baby monkey. Shiva called for Vayu, the god of the wind, who blows everywhere in the world and thus sees and knows everything. Shiva asked Vayu to take the child to be raised among people like him so that he would not feel out of place. And it just so happened that Vayu knew of a race of intelligent monkey people living deep in the Kishkinda forest, whose rulers, King Kesari and Queen Anjana, very much wanted a child, but had been unable to have one. So while the king and queen were sitting in the temple praying to God for a child, the invisible Vayu placed the baby monkey on Queen Anjana's lap. Overjoyed at having their prayers answered, the king and queen called the baby prince Anjaneya, which means the son of Anjana. The monkey child grew extremely fast, much faster than any normal child. He was smart and kind and loving and extremely precocious. He was also constantly and consistently hungry. His appetite grew along with him, and every day his mother Anjana struggled to find him enough food to satisfy him, gathering food from around the palace and fruits from the forest and surrounding lands. And every day Anjaneya would complain, "I'm still hungry. What more can I eat?" One day, after eating everything his mother had provided, Anjaneya again complained, "I'm still hungry. What more can I eat?" One day, his mother had no more food, but she thought perhaps he was big enough to find fruits in the forest for himself. He was, after all, very smart and big for his age. So she pointed to the west, where the sun was hanging over the forest, and told him, "I have no more food for you, my son. You've eaten everything. But if you like, you can search out fruits for yourself in the forest. You will know which fruits are good to eat, because any fruit that is orange like the sun will be ripe." Anjaneya was a clever boy. He said, "Thank you for your advice." And off he went to find his own fruits in the forest. And there were many. But his favorite were the mangoes, which were ripe and delicious. And after a while, he'd eaten everything there was, and he was still hungry. He scoured deeper and deeper among the trees, but there was nothing left on the branches, even high up at the top. But up there, above the trees, he saw the sun. And he thought, the sun is orange. It must be ripe. In fact, the sun is probably a big, juicy, ripe fruit, so much bigger than any of the fruits down here. Surely that will satisfy my hunger. And his mouth began to water. With the power of his father Shiva and Vayu, the wind god, he leapt high into the sky, growing to an enormous size, and reached out, seized the sun, and shoved the whole thing into his mouth. The entire sky darkened. Indra, the king of heaven, asked Agni, the fire god, "What's caused this sudden darkness? Something must be blocking the sun. Throw your thunderbolt at it," Agni suggested. So Indra mounted his war elephant, and guided by the light of the stars, he unleashed his terrible thunderbolt weapon, sending it hurtling through the sky. The thunderbolt struck Anjaneya on the side of his face, breaking his jaw. Anjaneya pulled the weapon from his cheek, still keeping the sun within his mouth. When Indra arrived, he saw the gigantic monkey god holding his thunderbolt weapon. "You open your mouth and let the sun go," he demanded. But Anjaneya refused. His jaw hurt. He was angry, and he was still hungry. Meanwhile, the entire world was plunged into cold and darkness, and the gods were worried. They gathered around Anjaneya and tried to cajole him into opening his mouth and releasing the sun. Each one offered him a gift if only he would let it go. Brahma, Indra, Agni, and Vayu, along with millions of other demigods, approached Anjaneya. "Please," they begged, "open your mouth." "Why should I?" the monkey god replied, still with his mouth full. "If you release the sun, you will live a long life," said Brahma, the creator god. "If you release the sun, you will become the most famous of all," said Indra, god of storms and warriors. "If you release the sun, the fire will not burn you," said Agni, god of fire. "If you release the sun, water will never harm you," said Varuna, god of the ocean. "If you release the sun, you will be as fast as the wind," said Vayu, god of the wind. But Anjaneya, unimpressed, continued to hold the sun in his mouth. He didn't care about all the gifts they were promising. What he wanted right now was for his jaw to stop hurting. Brahma, the creator god, looked at Anjaneya and began to understand what was needed. "Anjaneya," he said, "I know how to mend your jaw." Anjaneya was suspicious. Was this a trick to get him to open his mouth? But Brahma poured water from his magical water pot onto Anjaneya's cheek, and at once his cheek stopped hurting. Anjaneya smiled at him. Then Brihaspati, the wise priest of the gods, stepped forward. "We know that you are hungry, Anjaneya, and that is why you have tried to eat the sun." Anjaneya nodded his head. "But the sun is not good food. In fact, it is not food at all. We would like to give you the blessing that with ease you can gather fruits from all over the world to satisfy your hunger." Anjaneya still did not release the sun from his mouth, but he tilted his head to one side, considering the offer. He could still feel his stomach growling. Brihaspati continued, As well as this, we will give you the knowledge of the use of herbs. From these plants, you'll be able to make all kinds of medicines to heal yourself and others." This did the trick. Anjaneya consented to open his mouth. With a flood of light, the glorious sun flew out of his mouth, and the sky became radiantly bright once more. From that day on, Anjaneya was called Hanuman, or one with a mended jaw. And Hanuman, he could now feel himself brimming with the power of these gifts. Hanuman was now faster than the wind, as strong and fearless a warrior as his father Shiva, able to withstand tremendous pain and survive any ordeal on land or sea. He was also wise in the way of plants and healing, and utterly devoted to service. Hanuman did travel the world, eating whatever fruits he liked. But he also was utterly devoted to the service of the gods in gratitude for their many gifts. And he became famous throughout India and throughout the world as a fierce warrior and servant of the glorious Lord Rama. But that is another story.
Hello everyone. I'm Samvit and this is Adenia, and we're gonna play a song about Krishna. It's a really beautiful song that talks about Krishna playing his flute. So as you can read in the program, it'd be cool if you could sort of imagine yourself in the village of Vrindavan in north of India, sitting under a tree, listening to Krishna play his flute, while the gopis are the village women of they were absolutely in love with Krishna, because the idea is sort of that you see the beauty in everyone, even in the dirt that Krishna was eating, where he saw the universe. There's a beautiful prayer called Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, which is really a paradox, and it means from the whole comes out the whole, which is the whole. It's really saying that we are everything, and everything is us. And all these stories of Krishna sort of reflect a similar sentiment. So I hope you enjoy this performance. We're going to play in Teen Tal, 16-beat cycle, and Rag Bhupali, which is basically equivalent to the Western pentatonic scale.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanvi Navile. I've been performing Bharatanatyam dance since I was about 1 year old, so 21 years now. Bharatanatyam is an Indian classical style of dance that originated in South India in ancient times. Through the dance form, we tell stories. And in this way, the dancer takes on the role of the storyteller through the music, through the rhythm, and through facial expressions. Another unique part about Bharatanatyam is that we tell the story using hand gestures. So for example, a hand gesture like this, pataka as we call it, can be used to tell many different stories. For example, it can be, oh, I'm so tired, I need a nap. Or it could be, stop, no, get away from me. Or it could be, I have a secret to tell you. In this way, through my dance, I will be telling multiple stories of baby Krishna. And I will be now highlighting some specific hastas to help you guys understand where we're at. So first, the first story I'll be really talking about is the birth of Krishna, okay? And this happened when his parents were in jail because his evil uncle Kamsa heard that the child of his sister's, the 8th child of his sister will be the death of him. So he's like, what? I'm going to put my sister and her husband in jail. He prisons them, and then they're sitting in a prison, okay? And then they'll have all these children, whatever. You'll see the story, sorry. But this hasta, which reflects a demon, this means fangs. So when I do this, I'll be using a navrasa, an emotion called raudra, which is anger. And this, in this specific story, we'll talk about Kamsa, the evil uncle. Another important hasta to know is the flute. The flute often depicts Krishna. This flute can be like this, it can be with a different hasta, and most times it can also be used with a peacock feather. Krishna loved the aesthetics. He loved having the peacock feather. Sometimes he wouldn't even go into war without his. Another fun hasta that I'll be showing is this. This reflects the evil demon Kalinga, the evil snake demon. Baby Krishna, there's a fun story where he dances on the evil snake demon's head, therefore destroying him. Okay? In this hasta, this hand is holding the head of Kalinga, and this is holding the tail, as Krishna dances happily on him. In these ways and many more, I hope you guys will be able to join me in this storytelling and understanding process.
Krishna Damodara Nityananda Krishna Damodara Nityananda Yogi Manasa Paripurana Yogi Manasa Paripurana चोरा हरे कृष्णा नवनीत चोरा हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा नवनीत चोरा हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा नवनीत चोरा हरे कृष्णा नवनीत चोरा हरे कृष्णा कालिङ्गनर्दन कंस विमर्दन कालिङ्गनर्दन कंस विमर्दन कालिङ्गनर्दन कंस विमर्दन कस्तूरी चन्दन अलङ्कृत शोभन कस्तूरी चन्दन अलङ्कृत शोभन गरुड वाहन भक्त सम्मोहन गरुड वाहन भक्त सम्मोहन दुष्ट संहार न हरे दुष्ट संहारण हरे हरे भक्त विठोबा पद्मनाभ भक्त विठोबा पद्मनाभ मेघ श्यामळ मोहन रूप मेघ श्यामळ मोहन रूप गोपी सल्लाभ वृंदावन दीप गोपी सल्लाभ वृंदावन दीप गोपी सल्लाभ वृंदावन दीप कारुण्य शोभा हरे हरे कारुण्य शोभा हरे हरे कृष्ण दामोदर नित्यानन्द योगी मानस परिपूर्णानन्द परिपूर्णानन्द परिपूर्णानन्द
and one more set of stories and music. Many of you may be familiar with the stories of the New Testament, but you may not know that there were stories circulating in the Roman world about Jesus as a kid, stories that don't appear in the Gospels. In ancient Greece and Rome, there was actually a popular genre of stories about famous people when they were young. Everybody from Pericles to Alexander the Great to various emperors, or even Heracles, the mythical hero. And these childhood stories often showed individuals grappling with exaggerated forms of their adult powers, which were too big for their young minds and bodies, but did offer a preview of what they would become once fully grown. And so, from the 2nd century CE, we have non-canonical stories about Jesus as a little boy, stories that fill the gap between where the New Testament leaves off just after his birth and when he comes to the temple at the age of 12. These tales record sassy behavior and acts both wondrous and terrible carried out by the precocious Son of God. Once upon a time, when Jesus was just 5 years old, his mother Mary sent him to draw a pitcher of water from the town well and bring it back to the house. He was a small boy. It was a big pitcher. It was heavy. It was hard to hold on to, especially going through these narrow, bumpy, cobbled streets. And as he was passing through the middle of the marketplace, one of the merchants bumped into him, and he dropped the pitcher. It shattered, splattering water everywhere. But Jesus, not wanting to disappoint his mother, rushed back to the well. He spread out his cloak of coarse linen and filled it with water. This was, after all, a porous piece of cloth, but the cloak didn't drip, didn't spill, and so Jesus carried the water all the way home. Once she saw the miracle that had occurred, Mary kissed him, but she kept to herself the mystery that she had seen him accomplish. On another day, Jesus was helping his father, the carpenter, make a wooden bed for a rich man. Joseph had cut the sides of the frame and the headboard and set out to assemble the cross beams. Then he discovered that the beams were not the same length. One had been cut improperly and was far shorter than the other. Joseph had no other wood to work with and didn't know what to do. Jesus said to his father, "Don't worry. Set the two beams side by side, lined up at one end. Hold on to the shorter one." Joseph did as the child told him. Jesus stood at the other end of the shorter beam, grabbed it, and stretched it out so they both became of equal length. Joseph marveled, hugged and kissed the boy, declaring, "How lucky I am that God has given this son to me." So we get a glimpse into the home life of the Holy Family. Clearly, for Joseph and Mary, it wasn't so bad to have the Son of God helping around the house. But other tales focused instead on miracles, both good and bad, that showed otherworldly abilities. These sometimes startling stories invite us to imagine what can happen when a young, impulsive child has uncanny powers. Once, when he was 5 years old, Jesus went out on the Sabbath to play. There had been a thunderstorm, and a stream of water poured through the village. It was a great day for sand castles. So Jesus settled down to play in the sand at the edge of the rushing stream. He piled up sand castles. He collected the flowing water into muddy pools, and then, on a whim, he made the muddy water in those pools clear and pure with just a single word. Another bigger boy, standing nearby, saw what Jesus was doing. This boy grabbed a willow branch and he mucked up what Jesus had built, draining all the water out of the pools. Jesus became very angry and yelled at the boy, "Damn you, you stupid, thoughtless fool. What harm did that water ever do to you? Right now, you'll also dry up like a withered tree." And he touched the boy, who immediately withered up like a dried branch and died. On another day, Jesus, I'm only telling you what was written in antiquity. These are important. Pay attention. Good. It gets better. On another day, Jesus met some boys running around and playing a game. One of them accidentally ran into him, hitting him hard on the shoulder. Jesus again got angry and yelled at him, "You're not going anywhere anymore." And the boy dropped dead. Not surprisingly, the villagers were fearful and angry and at a loss as to what to do. "Where did such a boy come from?" they cried. "Every word he says, whether good or bad, has become fact. Miracles, in fact." They went to Joseph in his woodshop and said, "Joseph, with such a child, either you can live with us in the village, either you can't live with us in the village, or you must teach him to bless and not to curse." Joseph rushed Jesus home and told Mary, "Don't let him go outside anymore. Anyone who makes him angry will wind up dead." And Joseph scolded the boy. "Why are you doing this? These people are suffering and they hate us and harass us." Jesus replied, "The words I spoke were not my words. Still, for your sake, I'll keep quiet. I've come from above so that I might save those who are below and summon them to higher things, just as the one who sent me to you commanded me." As soon as he stopped speaking, all those who had fallen under his curse were saved. From then on, little Jesus no longer punished others in anger, but he did continue to work miracles, both for his loving parents and for the people of the village. He molded sparrows from clay, which sprang to life and flew around singing sweetly. He healed a young man who had been gravely injured in an accident. He brought back to life a boy who had fallen off a roof and raised an infant from the dead, restoring the child to its grieving mother. The villagers, seeing these miracles, worshiped him, saying, "He has saved many souls from death, and he can go on saving for the rest of his life. Truly, the Spirit of God dwells in this child. This child is from heaven."
Our stories this evening have offered us a glimpse of child gods across several traditions. These are old tales with many layers of meaning from the cultures from which they spring. But they can also be invitations for us. Invitations to remember what it is like to be children, to explore the world in all of its wonder, to be playful and completely unfettered by adult concerns. They also invoke profound parental love, not just fear or reverence or piety, but the joyous love that all humans have for their children. That love that gives us the patience to endure every act of mischief or mayhem and genetically compels us to marvel at any miracle that might issue from their tiny hands or mouths. And in the same way, they help us to envision that same potential for great compassion, for marvelous works, and for tremendous beauty manifest in the divine child, that all of this also lies within us, that this is who we are, or at least that this is who we might be.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Each child that's born, a morning
Thank you all. We'll see you at the next one.